Hey, it's a Humble Collector here, and today's video we have probably the largest unboxing we've done in quite a while. December I went a tad too far in some places when it comes to my Militaria buying. There were a couple really good auctions I couldn't pass up, a couple really neat pieces. So not only do we have probably close to 75 death cards, I'm thinking, in this unboxing, we also have some Battlefield Doug items, as well as a piece of souvenir art, kind of. We'll get to that when we get there. So normally I would go through packages smallest to largest, but just to avoid the first 30 plus minutes of this video just being death cards, I'm going to split it up a little bit. So we'll do some death cards first, we'll get into like the Battlefield Doug stuff, go into more death cards, then we'll finish with that piece of art that I was talking about. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Similar to the other death card videos, I had to open this one up first just because the seller had stickers with their names on it all over the place. And one of the first items is very cool. June 1917 Zeppelins. This is a British death card, and it has a really neat story behind it. So, yeah, the front here, thy will be done. The number of victims in this raid constitutes a new record in air raid casualties. The Germans don't kill women and little children from the sky for the mere fun of the thing. It is part of their scheme of frightfulness. They believe that the murder of the little ones will cause the parents to revolt and overthrow authority, and by that means peace will come. Of course, they are wrong again. Half the profits will be given to the Lord Mayor's Relief Fund. In sacred memory of the victims of the Hun death dealers in the Great Air Raid on London, Wednesday, June 13th, 1917, in sincere sympathy for the relatives and sufferers, may God rest their souls. And then on the back, makes your blood boil. Almost immediately on hearing the news, the king drove to St. Bartholomew's and to the London hospital in a motor car to do all in his power for the suffering. Told at the London hospital the number of women and children who had been admitted, some to the mortuary, some to the wards, the king exclaimed in tone of anger and bitterness, "It makes your blood boil. They will do anything." He passed to the beds occupied by the raid sufferers, spoke to those who were able to talk, and left smiling faces everywhere. East London Printing Company, London, EC. So yeah, really awesome card being sold to raise money on behalf of the victims of this air raid. I've never seen one like this. I paid a bit of a premium for it. Just looking at the card and the printing methods involved here, especially if this like silver foil, I don't see this being fake. Obviously, I'll check it out like my other death cards later, but super awesome card. Definitely not something that you see very often. Alright, so moving on to the items in the envelope here. So I have not actually opened this inner envelope up, so I can't remember what's in here. Looks like just one death card in this one. Let's see here. I got Karl Kircher, Bauerson von Wackelkosen, soldier in Reserve Bavarian Infantry Regiment 16, 11th Company, who was killed on July 7th, 1916 by a grenade, which apparently hit him in the chest. Or is it a grenade and a chest shot? But he was killed at the age of 21. So that's pretty interesting. So yeah, Bavarian 16th Infantry Regiment. I believe that's the one that Hitler was in, right? Yeah, Infantry Regiment 16, Bavarian. I guess that depends. Is that for reserve or is that a K? It's a good question. I'll have to double check that later, do some research on him. But moving on here to the next envelope. This one I have not opened. Alright, we got a card here. Oh, a few cards, actually. Alright, so the first one here is for Willi Stutzenberger, who was born September 19th, 1923 in Ensenhofen, and fell on August 15th, 1942 near Demyansk, and was a member of Jaeger Regiment 75, 5th Jaeger Division. Right, so these two brothers, I remember these, are really interesting because they both have their actual units on them. So Willi here, if I can get the camera focus, was in Jaeger Regiment 75, and his brother Franz was a lieutenant at Artillery Regiment 215, Battery 8. He was born on December 16th, 1920, and was killed, or died in a reserve field hospital in Hanover, or near Hanover, on April 9th, 1945. So, you don't see the actual unit listed on death cards very often. There's a couple theories as to why that is, but it's very odd to see one from 42. Usually you only see them super late in the war like this one, or super early in the war like Poland, France. So very unusual cards for sure, especially having the two brothers there. Yeah, I already got some pretty interesting premium cards. We're barely getting started here. This is going to be a long video. I apologize in advance. That's what I get for waiting a couple weeks to do an unboxing. Alright, the next one here. I believe this is the same seller, just a different set of auctions from them. Oh yeah, so this is pretty neat. So here we have a photo of three brothers, and somebody has typed out and pasted to the bottom here Georg Meyer, Josef Meyer, and Xavier Meyer, two of whom were killed in 1944, one of whom died in 1946. So really neat piece. I guess not technically a death card, but definitely death card adjacent. Not something I've really seen before, so super cool. Looking forward to researching that. Then we have this other card here for Gustl Mosbauer, an Obergefreiter in a RUB in an infantry regiment. So that'd be a something battalion? I don't know. I'll have to look that up. But really unusual photo because he's actually standing outside. So that's pretty neat. Definitely something you don't see very often. But he was born March 1st, 1920 near Günzburg and was killed August 10th, 1944 in Lenkeliskia. Yeah, definitely pretty neat. Yeah, so pretty good cards there. That's a seller I haven't really bought from a ton before, but they have some interesting stuff. So, this is going to be a fun box. So, this was listed as a German prayer book and soldier funeral cards. However, the auction listing did not actually show us what any of the cards look like. We just saw the backing plates. So, there were a few that were definitely military themed, but there were others that could be civilian. Never bought from this person before. We might have gotten a tad scammed, but it was cheap, and I thought it'd be fun to take the risk, and especially since they weren't showing what the photos are. There could be literally anything in here. I mean, the sky's kind of the limit. Alright, we got a silver box. Imagine a world where illness is optional. Okay, I guess this is some kind of promotional thing from healthcare. I don't know. I don't know what the box was originally used for, but now it's being used to hold death cards, and that's all that matters. Alright, yeah, so there was the auction listing, like, invoice in there, so I took that out. Go ahead and open this up. So here's the prayer book. Yep, Gebetsbuch und Gesangbuch. Actually, if this is actually for World War II, very good condition. The leather is still very supple. There's all the cards. Ooh, okay. Some interesting stuff, it looks like. Let's see when the prayer book's actually from here. Okay, January 6th, 1932. So yeah, definitely right for the period. So, here's what I'm guessing. And we'll see if I'm right when we're looking through these cards here. But I'm guessing the person who sold this bought this prayer book, and these cards were tucked into it by the original owner. And so we're probably going to see a lot of cards that are from the same town or general region. That's going to be my guess. Let's see if I'm right. So we'll go through here, starting from the top. Let's see. Per souvenir to Peter Joseph Esser, post agent who died April 11th, 1940. And I apologize to hear the fridge. I'm not seeing anything about military service. I think this is a civilian card, it looks like. Let's see. There's a town listed in here. Yeah, so print shop of H. Gerges and Beisweiler und Unbach. So I'm guessing that a lot of cards are going to be from there, but let's see. So next card here, probably a military card, I'm guessing. Yep. Willy Wiehofer, who on June 10th, 1944, in the West, by Saint Gaudier le Vicomte. Okay, so he's killed right after D-Day, June 10th, 1944 in the West. So pretty cool card there. And, oh, we got a bit of background. Born September 3rd, 1923. Let's see, killed at the age of 21. But yeah, definitely an unusual card for her. Oh, is that an actual gray photo? No way. No, there's no way. That's awesome. Hold on. I think it's got to be, right? That's crazy. So sometimes you do find death cards with the original gray photos on them, but it's like very uncommon. I've only seen a handful and like got a rifle laid across it. That's super crazy. All right, I'm feeling good. Feeling good about this. I think there's going to be some really interesting stuff in here. All right, this next one for Johannes Josef van der Velden. There's a gas heater in the corner of the room that just turned on. It scared the heck out of me. Who was born August 7th, 1891. Became a priest on June 24th, 1915. And a bishop on October 10th, 1943 in Aachen. See, another civilian card there. All right, this is definitely a military one. I don't think I've seen this exact backing before with the sword and the bayonet. That's pretty cool. Let's see what's in here. Okay, so we have fallen Obergefreiter Caspar Grotenroth, who was born January 6, 1918, and was wounded November 27th, 1942, and transported to a hospital in Smolkovo in Russia. And it looks like that's probably where he died. So early Eastern Front card there, civilian photo as well. I like these blind death card lots, because it's one thing when I like pick them out and know what's in there, but like the discovery is always kind of interesting. So this should also be a military card, it looks like. Ooh, a helmet photo. Very unusual. Gefreiter Franz Schmidt, a Kriegsfreiwilliger in an infantry regiment. I can't remember what a Kriegsfreiwilliger is. I'll have to look it up later. Who was born August 7, 1921. It looks like he was killed July 20th, 1941. Oh no, he was wounded July 20th, 1941 near Karmelinets in Russia. He's taken to the field hospital in Tega. Yeah, definitely unusual. Also, all these cards are kind of like the story cards that actually have like a brief biography, which are not super common, so it's kind of odd they all share the same general format. And yeah, this one's also from that printery in Ubach, so it's kind of interesting. This could be a civilian card. This looks like post-World War II, I'm guessing. Oh, it's a souvenir of the First Communion of Sophie Zitzen on April 13th, 1941. So, wartime, but civilian. Alright, this is a cool backing. I've never seen this one before. Let's take a look what's in here. Okay, Josef Esser, bearer of the Iron Cross and the Wound Badges, who was born December 18th, 1918, became a Freiwilliger in the RAD in 1937, and during the fighting in the West was wounded near Sedan, treated in a hospital there, and then transferred to the Ostfront. His regimental commander had some words about him. Yeah, really interesting cards out of this. So he was 22 when he died. He's got the ribbon there. There's a lot of stuff I haven't really seen. I've never seen this exact backing before. That's pretty cool. And we got this type paper. I wonder what this is. Muttergott. Mother's Prayer, maybe? A prayer for St. Castor, who I'm not familiar with. Now, this is definitely a military card. Again, look at this backing. A, it's in color, which you don't see a lot on death cards from World War II. You have this really interesting plate up top with the cross, the helmet, and an airplane. So are we thinking he's a pilot, maybe? No? Gerhard Schmitz, soldier in an infantry regiment, who on July 6, 1942, died in a reserve field hospital on the Rhine. See here, born March 7th, 1923. He follows his or he's followed by his brother Franz in death, who was killed on July 21st, 1941, near in the east, it looks like. Boy, can you imagine? So, he was killed July 6th, or died July 6th. His brother was killed July 21st, just barely 2 weeks later. Oh, yeah, really interesting card with the color backing. You don't see that. So, nothing like super earth-shattering, but definitely some really unusual cards. Once again, that same printer from unbox. So not all of the cards are from that same printer, but they're probably from the same region. Very cool. You don't see sets like this very often. So that's definitely a neat one to have. But yeah, that's like the second prayer book with death cards in it lot that I've gotten. Always interesting, always some really neat stuff in there. And yeah, so we'll move on now to the first of the big packages. This is some Battlefield Doug items out of Ukraine, as you can tell by the packaging. Okay, might have to cut here depending on what's written on this box. Here. Alright, so let's take a look. I already know what's in here, but it's wrapped up in multiple different pieces. Let's pull all these out and move the box out of the way as it gets stuck to the table there. So these were all dug out of the remains of a dugout in a trench system. In Ukraine somewhere. These are all, well, you'll see here in a second, but they're pretty neat pieces. Try to be a bit careful opening these. I say as I struggle with the cling wrap. So these are all leather items that were pulled out of this one dugout. So there's a lot of probably junkier pieces of leather in here, but there's a couple pretty interesting ones. And this lot was very cheap. Oh yeah, so here we have a bunch of different straps and things. They're dried out. So this could actually be part of a uniform, maybe. Yeah, we got a 2 stamped on there. So this is kind of some junkier stuff. There is some more interesting stuff in here, I promise. Got what's left of an ammo box. There's a couple of ammo box remains in here as well. Yeah, might have to do like a Doug leather display at some point. Another item in here. And I believe this is the remains of a helmet liner. So I bumped the camera. There we go. Almost there. Yeah, so here we have what's left of a helmet aluminum band here. Looks like it was marked on this side, yeah. So 64 NA 56. I'm not super familiar with my helmet markings and things. Got a couple other strips here. We will move on here. That's this part of the package. There's one piece in here in particular that's really cool, and that's why I bought this lot. So I promise you there's more in here than just like destroyed leather. I mean, it's all kind of destroyed leather, but cool destroyed leather. You'll see what I mean. We're almost there, I'm pretty sure. Oh yes, here we go. So 2 ground dug ammo boxes, or ammo pouches. Yeah, so here's part of one that you can see. So these are kind of neat. We got, yeah, this one here. It's got its metal in the back. I should be able to piece these back together in a case or display into a representative pouch. It's interesting seeing how the leather kind of stays in the same shape even after it's been dug up. Got part of a pouch there. We got almost a complete one here with one of those. I wonder if that's actually some battle damage or if that's just from being in the ground. This is definitely the nicest one out of the lot, I remember that. But yeah, now the cool piece, I see it laying in the bag there. So my camera only lets me record in 20-minute intervals, so I had to cut there. But yeah, so this pouch actually has the soldier's name written in it, Schnell, which is pretty neat. That's literally the whole reason I bought this lot. This lot was only like, I think like $30-odd. Like, it was very not super expensive. And I thought it might be fun to try to piece some of these ammo pouches back together in like a display. Work on my conservation skills a little bit. So yeah, I can't remember what's going to be in here. Okay, so we have another set of pouches here. So this is a complete set of 3. Yep, so here's an actual helmet liner. It's all kinds of dried out and crusty, but there's something about ground dug items though. I don't know why. I've just always found them interesting. I really don't have a ton of leather since that doesn't tend to survive. Okay, here's the front of a set of pouches. It's pretty neat. And I don't know what's in this last little box, or this last little wrap up here. Okay, it's another set of straps, it looks like. But yeah, I'm going to try to maybe piece some of these back together into a bit more of a displayable set. But yeah, pretty cool stuff though. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to pause to get all this out of the way and then move on to the next set of death cards. Alright, so now I've gotten all that cleaned up, I'll go ahead and move on to this big thing of death cards. So I did already open this. Curiosity got the better of me because there should be a little over 50 cards in here and it just seemed kind of light, but nope, they all seem to be here. I haven't really looked at them, just kind of looked at the packages. Like, yeah, it looks like about 50 death cards. So these all came from a big auction house in Berlin. They had their winter auction, and I managed to snag 2 of these lots here. So we'll go ahead and get started. I guess which bag do we want to open first? Let's see, since we can see this guy's a Gebrücksjäger, why don't we start with him? And this pouch here. But yeah, so it's going to be mostly military. There'll be some civilians mixed in. Good mix of branches, except I don't know if there's any Kriegsmarine in here, but I'm pretty sure every other branch is represented. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first card here is for Andreas Schuster, and he was a Gefreiter in a Vorausausbildung. I'm not familiar with that. In the Gebrücksjäger Regiment, who on October 11th, 1941, was killed at the age of 21 near Alexandrovka in Ukraine, it looks like. But yeah, really nice photo of Andreas here. We got the Edelweiss on the side of his hat. It's pretty neat. Go ahead and move on. Next card, also a Gebrücksjäger, as we can see. And this is for Josef Strasser. a soldier in a Geberjäger regiment who was born on June 14th, 1921, and fell on December 10th, 1941 in the East. And we have Josef Pickler, it looks like, who was an Oberjäger in a Geberjäger regiment, who on the 18th of September 1944 fell into Italy at the age of 30. And we can see he actually has the marksmanship lanyard there, which is pretty neat. Not something you see super often in HCOM backing 305. This is cool. I don't think I've seen this backing before. And let's see what the other side looks like. So we have Franzl Hamburger, a Gefreiter in a Geberg's Pioneer Regiment, bearer of the General Assault Badge, who on October 3rd, 1944, was deathly wounded in the heavy fighting in the East at the age of 20 and a half years. So pretty neat. Like I said, I haven't seen that backing before. This feels like a late war card. It looks like one too, which makes sense. It's 44. Oh, we got another one here. Nice ribbon there for Hans Thalhauser, who is a Stabsgefreiter in a Geberjäger regiment, bearer of the various awards, who on November 27th, 1944, at the age of 29, fell southwest of Ungarn after being heavily wounded. And the next one we have here, we have Georg Strasgutl, a soldier in a Geberjäger regiment, who on January 14th, 1944, fell in the East at the age of 40 years. This is a bit of an unusual one. So we have Willi Erhardt, a lieutenant in Geberjäger regiment. We have use of the life and death runes here. Born May 4th, 1914, and fell April 6th, 1941. Oh, and really neat all black backing. I don't think you see backings like this, like all black like this on World War I death cards a lot. You don't really see it on World War II, so that's pretty neat. Alright, so the next card here, we have Lorenz Koltzinger, who was a Feldwebel in a Geberjäger regiment, bearer of the Iron Cross Second Class, the Infantry Assault Badge, the Wound Badges, born March 14th, 1914, and fell May 19th, 1943. Then we have Hubert Thalhauser here, who was an Oberfreiter in a Geberg's Pioneer Battalion, who on April 17th, 1945, in Ratten by Bruck, in Österreich, okay, so in Austria, fell at the age of 21. Interesting, I have a lot of late war cards. I don't know if I have any for anybody who fell in Austria at the end of the war, so it's kind of neat. We have the next card here for Ludwig Huber, also Geberjäger, is the Edelweiss on his sleeve there. He was a soldier in a Geberjäger regiment who, on September 22nd, 1941, in South Russia, fell at the age of 20. Alright, the next card we have here for Josef Huber. Did we already have a Josef Huber? Oberfreiter in a Geberjäger regiment, bearer of the War Merit Crosses, or Merit Awards, War Awards, veteran of the campaigns in Poland and France, fell on July 3rd, 1944 in Italy. Yeah, don't we, if I go back through here, no, I could have sworn we did, but apparently we did not. Oh, we had Ludwig Huber. So we had, I wonder if they're related. Interesting. I'll go ahead and move on here. So the next card, nice photo here with the ribbon, and that looks like an infantry assault badge there. For Josef Wechselberger, a Oberfreiter in Geberjäger regiment, who on April 21st, 1945, after 4 years of service, fell in the heavy fighting in Hraben Kreistropau to a headshot at the age of 23 years. Really light war card, you can kind of tell by the paper quality too. You have interesting stuff there. And moving on, we have Hans Border, who was a soldier in Geber's Pioneer Regiment, who on September 15th, 1941, in South Russia at the age of 20 and a half years, fell. It's pretty neat backing. I don't think I've seen that one before. Then we have infantry assault badge. Oh, look at that. Close combat clasp right there. Did not see that in the auction. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so the auction only had like a photo of all of them laid out, so I couldn't really tell. Like some of them were flipped over. Like if the names were on this side, you couldn't see the photos. That's pretty neat. So Obergefreiter in a ski brigade. Oh, that's unusual. Who was bearing the Iron Cross Second Class, the Infantry Assault Badge, and the Wound Badges, as well as the Close Combat Clasp. Born August 9th, 1919, wounded December 30th, 1944, and died January 5th, 1945, in a hospital in Rosenberg, Slovakia, after 5 years of service. So yeah, really neat. You don't see with the Close Combat Clasp actually being worn very often, so that's super unusual. And being in a ski brigade, again, not something you see very often. So here we have HCOM backing 308, and Josef Pickler, who was an Oberjäger and Geberjäger regiment, who on September 18th, 1944, fell in Italy at the age of 30. We had another Pickler in here, so I'm wondering if these all came out of the same family estate, maybe. That's why we have a lot of the same names and things. Let's see, where's Pickler in the cards we've already been through? Oh yeah, look, it's a separate death card for him, actually. So 2 different printings, which you don't see terribly often. But yeah, so obviously one of these would have been printed earlier and one of them would have been printed later. 2 different HCOM backings. But yeah, pretty interesting actually to have those 2 together. And I don't know why we have this random piece of paper that says photo. Maybe one of these death cards actually has a real photograph on it. I guess we'll find out. So let's see here. Yeah, Josef Huber again, so we already have... Yeah, I remember they said there were some duplicates that weren't shown in the pictures. That's kind of interesting. So we have 2 for Josef Pickler, and then Huber here. If I go through the cards we've looked through. Yeah, look at that. We got 2, at least 2. I'll go through the rest here in a second. And it looks like, yeah, same printing actually as well. Which is pretty unusual. I'm like going through these like, oh, did I miss any other duplicates? Because some of these sounded like similar names and things. I was like, I don't know. I actually completely forgot that, yeah, there were going to be duplicates in this auction, so that's good to keep in mind. Okay, so no other duplicates that I can see so far. But still, we'll keep those 2 together for now. That's pretty cool. And the next card here, we have Andreas Schuster, who I literally just saw looking through the other deck there. And yeah, that photo should look familiar. Yep, here he is. Andreas Schuster. And once again, it looks like we have 2 cards from the same printing as well, which is pretty neat. But yeah, so with these cards where I have the exact same cards with the same fronts, same backings, that aren't from 2 separate printings, might be doing a giveaway for some of those in the future, so definitely stay tuned for that. Okay, the next one here we have Anton Schuster. Wonder if he's a brother to Andreas there, who was an Obergefreiter in the Gebers Pioneer, who on March 13th, 1945, died in a Russian prison at the age of 35 years. It looks like the Russian prison was Yuriosvinsk. There's a set of interesting. So these are definitely HCOM plates, because I recognize them, but they aren't marked HCOM. That's very strange. Yeah, very strange indeed. Let's see, then we have Nicholas Hoffmanner, neutral officer in the Geberjäger Regiment, bearer of the Iron Cross First and Second Class, the Infantry Assault Badge, the Wound Badges, veteran of the campaigns in Poland, France, Greece, Crete, and the Soviet Union. Wow, okay. Who, on August 21st, 1942, died at Leningrad at the age of 25. That's a pretty cool card. You don't see Crete on death cards very often. Let's see, so the next card we have here, this is Ernst Fritz, Obergefreiter in a Geberjäger Regiment, who, in the heavy fighting in the East, was heavily wounded and died on January 8th, 1945 in the hospital in Munich at the age of 24. This feels like it should be a 4-panel, but it's not. And then I'm pretty sure, yeah, we've already looked at the card here for Josef Wesselberger. It's a late war card, and I'm pretty sure... Yeah, look at that. Same printing. Very cool. So yeah, we'll definitely be doing some giveaways in the future, it looks like. The next card here we have Sebastian Doxenberger, Gebersjäger, fighter in Gebersjäger Regiment, veteran of the campaign of Poland, who on May 24th, 1943, was killed in Russia at the age of 30. Let's see, then we have Aloy Geyer, who was a fighter in the Gebersjäger Regiment, buried the Iron Cross Second Class, who was killed September 8th, 1943 after being wounded in Cuban at the age of 21. We got another Pickler here, Aloy. Yeah, Aloy Pickler. Let's see, Feldwebel in the Gebersjäger Regiment, bearer of various awards, who on September 9th, 1944, after 5 years of service, was killed in the heavy fighting in Weichselbogen at the age of 32. HCOM 205 backing. I'll go through the Picklers again here in a second, make sure that I don't have a duplicate of him, and then yeah, we have another duplicate, it looks like, of Yosef here. Yep, so that makes, yeah, 3 duplicate cards for Yosef. So, obviously because there were dozens of cards, if not hundreds, printed for any given funeral, you do sometimes see duplicates. So that's actually pretty cool. To have 3 from the same guy, same printing. Then go to this next one here, we have HCOM 209 for Aloy Pickler, we just looked at a second ago. And 2 different printings from HCOM there as well. It's pretty neat. Alrighty, so I couldn't find any other duplicates in that first set, so I'm guessing that the rest of the non-Gebersjäger cards, the civilian cards, everything else are in the second pack here. So we'll go ahead and start looking through. Let's see. Alright, so the first card we have here is for Hermann Schleifner, who was killed in the heavy bombing attack on Heilbronn on December 4th, 1944, at the age of 24. And he seems to be wearing some kind of interesting collar device there on what looks like a civilian suit. So if anybody recognizes what that is, let me know, because I'm not really sure. And moving on to the next card here. We have Ludwig Stormer, who on 13th of October 1944, after receiving the last sacrament, died at the age of 42 for God and Fatherland. So obviously, military card, especially with the Iron Cross there, though no information on what Ludwig's unit was, so I'll have to do some research on that. It's pretty neat Cassim backing. I don't think I've seen that one before either. So we have Georg Faulkner, who was a Schiffsjunge in the Kriegseinsatz. Oh man, what is the Kriegseinsatz? I should know this. But anyway, he was killed on September 5th, 1943, at the age of 17. Okay, and then we have, looks like a civilian card here for Maria Adelzendis Oringer, who was born on August 28th, 1940, or died August 28th, 1940, at the age of 66 years. And the 41st year of ordination. Okay, so she was a nun, actually, in the, don't know what that order is off the top of my head, but that's pretty neat. Next one we got here is for Andreas, SS Rotenführer Andreas Ammer, who was a Sparkoffen-Bianker in Rosenheim before the war, bearer of the Infantry Assault Badge, who on August 22nd, 1942, was heavily wounded in Fimenkis, south of Ilmensis, don't know where that is, at the age of 31. Unfortunately, a bit of a more worn card there, but should still be good to research. And then the next card we have here is for Johann Stoyab, who was an Arbeitsmann in the RAD, and on December 6, 1944, died at the age of 17 years and 9 months in Krankenhaus. Then we have Rupert Mitterer, who was an Obergefreiter in a Pioneer Regiment, bearing the Iron Cross Second Class and the Wound Badges, who on October 11th, 1944, in the heavy fighting in the East, died at the age of 37. HCOM 304 backing there. And we have Josef Yell, an Obergefreiter in a Pioneer Battalion, who was born on October 13th, 1911, and died in a Russian prison camp in Stalino on March 23rd, 1945. Ooh, nice color backing, like you don't see very often, as I mentioned earlier. Then we have the small format card, very small format card, of Jakob Stalker, a Gefreiter in a Panzer Regiment, who, after 16 months of faithful service, died at the age of 20 in the West. Unfortunately, no dates there, so I don't know if that's early war or late war. So it'll definitely be interesting to research. We got HCOM 310 here for Josef Keigel, an Obergefreiter in a Panzerjäger battalion, bearer of various awards, who on September 13th, 1944, at the age of 22 and a half, died in the East. Okay, and then we got Karl Frank, an Obergefreiter in a Lufteinheit, who on July 11th, 1944, in the heavy fighting in the East, died at the age of 23. Actually, a lot of late war cards here as well, it looks like. Okay, just two panel. For Josef Mongol, an Obergefreiter in an infantry regiment, bearer of the Iron Cross Second Class, the Infantry Assault Badge, veteran of the campaign in France, who at the end of January 1943 was killed in the heavy fighting near Donbogen in Russia at the age of 31. We got Nikolaus Wendel, who on April 20th, 1945, in Brandenburg near Berlin, fell at the age of 24. Okay, so we got a end of the war card here for the Berlin campaign. Oh, and his brother's on the other side. That's cool. Did not see that. Josef Wendel, who on August 27th, 1940, in Salbris by Orleans in France, died at the age of 24. So wow, his brother died, geez, almost 5 years before he did. Kind of bookend the conflict too, invasion of France and then Battle of Berlin. Next up we have Franz Weidmann, Obergefreiter in a Schlachter company, which I'm not familiar with what that is. Bearer of the War Merit Crosses with Swords, who on 34th year of his life died after 2 years of service. It looks like his brother's on here as well. Ludwig Weidmann, who's an Unterofficer in a Luftwaffe battalion, died at the age of 27. No dates for... Okay, dates are up top. So Ludwig was killed September 26, 1943 in Leningrad, and his brother was killed October 24th of 1943. Wow, so less than a month apart there. Alright, so the next card here is for Ludwig Kriegenhofer, who was a soldier in a Panzer Grenadier Regiment, who was born on July 28, 1927, and is missing as of April of 1945 in Berlin. So, wonder if he... I'll have to check the... when I eventually research the card, I'll check Ancestry and the Volksbund and see if his fate is actually known or if he's still listed as missing. A lot of Berlin cards, actually. I was not expecting that. Okay, we have Kasper Zeller, who bear the Iron Cross Second Class, veteran of the campaigns in Poland and France, died September 23rd, 1941 in the fighting in eastern Ukraine. And then next up we have Aloy Hoffman, a soldier in an infantry regiment, and let's see, who on October 6, 1942, at the age of 20 years, was heavily wounded near Rshev and died as a result. So we have Andreas Gruber, Unterofficer in the Feldgendarmerie. That's the field police. Or not field police, but these are the guys who are like directing traffic and things. I think they're subordinate to the field police. I can't remember now. I don't know how long this video has been edited down to, but I've been out here like reading cards for what feels like an hour, and I'm kind of... brain's a little shutting down, but we're going to keep trucking along. Born September 2nd, 1914. Bearer of the various war awards. And was killed July 3rd, 1944 after 5 years of service. Died July 3rd, 1944 after 5 years of service in a reserve hospital in Rosenheim in Italy. And then we have Aloy Rinzer, Pioneer Feldwebel, bearer of various awards, who was born on February 25th, 1919 in Rosenheim, and was wounded after 4 years of service on September 2nd, 1943 in the East, and died September 19th, 1943 in the Warsaw Reserve Field Hospital. Okay, and then next up here we have, there's a couple cards wrapped into Peters here. We'll take those out. So we have Peter Forg, soldier in the Africa Corps. Okay, it's kind of unusual. He's killed November 23rd, 1941 in Africa at the age of 20. And then we have Johann Losserer, who was killed January 31st, 1942 at the age of 23 in the East. We have Franz Ungermann, Bau und Kunstschläfer in Brienne, Gebirgspanzerjäger, who on October 14th, 1943 in the East was heavily wounded and died at the age of 19. And we have Ludwig Kriegenhofer, soldier at a Panzer Grenadier Regiment. Oh, this is the same guy who went missing in Berlin. Hold on. Yeah, there's this other card here. As we can see, two different printings as well. It's pretty interesting. Okay, next up we have Sebastian Kissinger, Gefreiter in the Jaeger Battalion, bearer of the Iron Cross Second Class and the Infantry Assault Badge, who on January 15th, 1944, in the fighting southwards of Vinitsa, was killed after 24 months of service at the age of 21. HCOM 104 backing. We have Franz Wiedmann and Ludwig Wiedmann. Oh, so that's really interesting. So we had these cards, or we had these other cards for them that did not have photos on them, if I'm remembering correctly. Hoffman. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, very interesting, and again, a great example of how two printings can be vastly different. Is yeah, the information's all the same, but the format is completely different, which is very interesting. Yeah, very neat. It's not something, usually there's like slight differences. I don't know if I have any that are just that completely different between two different printings. And then we have Heinrich Donnerbauer, SS Stormman, bearer of the Panzer Assault Badge, who was born on November 2nd, 1925 in Arnsdorf, and fell on July 10th, 1944 in the heavy fighting in France. So killed in the Normandy campaign. Which, even if I can't find his casualty record, should narrow down his unit pretty well. Oh, so we have a mailer type here. Yeah, Anton Fritz, Obergefreiter in a Luftwaffe Communication Regiment, who, after 3 years of faithful service on October 6, 1943, fell in Russia at the age of 24. His funeral will be October 21st. So here we go. I really hope this card's real, because I don't think I have any SS helmet cards. So this is for Hans Helmberger, ironically enough, who was a Stormman in a regiment of the Waffen-SS, who, on November 17th, 1941, in Russia near Boden, was killed at the age of 21. And obviously I'll have to look at it under a scanner later just to confirm, but I'm not seeing anything indicating this photo is fake. The dot pattern, I don't know if the camera will pick this up, but the dot pattern on the photo, which is one of the better tells, is very, well, it's kind of obvious to the naked eye in person, so I'll check it out under a scanner later just to confirm, but I believe that one's actually real. Okay, and then we have HCOM 302 here for Lorenz Pronkel, who, at the age of 31, after 4 years of faithful service, was killed in the fighting near Belgorod. Yeah, no date on there. We have Felix Vollner, Gefreiter in a Panzer Grenadier Regiment, who on February 23rd, 1945, in the heavy fighting in the East, was killed at the age of 19. Then we have Franz Xavier Coetzee, Obergefreiter in a Flak Regiment, who on March 19th, 1943, near Donau, died in a Luftwaffe hospital. There he is there. We have Andreas Schuster, a Gefreiter, and Gefreiter and a Voras Optalong in a Geberjäger regiment, who, I think we had Andreas in the previous pack of cards, if I remember correctly. Yeah, we definitely did. I think it's the same printing as the other ones. Then we have Anton Fritz, Oberfreiter in a Luft Communications Battalion, died in 3 years of service on the Eastern Front. Oh yeah, so we have the set there for Anton, because here's his funeral invitation, and then here's the card. It looks like they used the same photo for both, which is pretty interesting. And the last card here is for Hermann Turvin, Gefreiter in an infantry regiment, who on October 30th, 1941, after 5 months of faithful service, died at the age of 20. So yeah, definitely a lot of cards, a lot of very interesting cards, which I'm definitely looking forward to doing some research on moving forward here. This has been a very big death card year for me. I think we've probably bought conservatively 500 plus cards this year, it feels like. I haven't done a count of my backlog, but I would not be surprised if we're getting close to probably 1,000 cards at this point. It's a lot of cards, it's a problem. But I enjoy them, and I enjoy making content about them, doing the research, so, it's worth it. Alright, and we're back. So this last package is pretty neat. Like I said, this is a bit of like a souvenir piece. So not really like trench art, though maybe it will be a little bit. Well, you'll see when I open it up here. But for those of you who maybe are newer to the channel, one of my areas of interest is the 28th Infantry Division, which was made up of Pennsylvania National Guard. I'm a Pennsylvanian myself, so I like collecting things from that unit. And this item came up on eBay, and I could not pass it up, as you'll see here in a minute. Oh man, I really hope it made it in one piece. Oh, it's way bigger than I thought it was. This is going to be awesome. Alright, so I'm going to set that down, move the box out of the way, make sure I'm not missing nothing else in there. Would have been surprised if there was. Okay. Can you feel the anticipation? Oh, it's a very pleasant smell, which I know is a weird thing to say. Oh, it made it in one piece. Thank goodness. Alrighty. Oh, look at that. So, this clock, as you can see if I zoom out, is a souvenir of Ulm. I have no idea if the clock part actually works. Yep, souvenir of Germany here. Yes, probably winds up somehow, right? Maybe? Okay, so that's how you set the clock. I'm afraid to break it, so I'll mess with that later. But what's cool about this is that this is a souvenir of Ulm. As we can see, we have our GI here seems to be holding a rifle. Its detail's not great, but I'm assuming it's a Grand. And well, what's really neat is if we look at his shoulder here, and I zoom in, and my camera actually focuses. Come on. Yeah, so that's kind of better. But that is a keystone. So the emblem of the 28th Infantry Division is a red keystone. Pennsylvania is the Keystone State. The unit during World War II would earn the nickname the Bloody Bucket. And I haven't checked out where they were in the Army of Occupation yet, but I'm assuming they were somewhere around Ulm. So this is a souvenir piece, obviously, made for the Army of Occupation, specifically based off the GI here. And I'm curious if anybody's ever seen a clock like this before, if they normally had the unit patches on the shoulder. And I asked that because I'm not sure if, like, when you bought this clock, if you could be like, you know, that was just a service. Like, oh, well, what's your patch? You know, let me see it, and I'll put it on the guy here. Or if the GI actually went in and painted this on here himself. That's what I'm kind of curious about. So if anybody's seen anything like this, let me know. But yeah, this is a really neat piece. And I really hope that clock works because I would love to have this. I don't have a mantle, but I would love to have this on my mantle. Like, this is just really cool. Yeah, just super, super cool piece. Something you don't see very often. And yeah, that brings us to the end of the unboxings. We have the lovely clock here, a whole mess of death cards, as well as a large box of Battlefield Doug leather. So yeah, pretty big unboxings. The video is probably going to be close to an hour by the time I'm done editing it. Maybe like 40 to 45 minutes. But still, really hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's always fun making these. Thank you all for watching. Happy collecting. And I'll see you all again very soon.